We're back.
We're back, guys.
We're back.
With another
episode
of Cozy Convos.
Of what?
Cozy Convos. It didn't come out like I thought it was going to come out.
It's all good, baby. You know how we do. Let's get this party started off right. It's been too long since the last one.
Amen.
Look me in my eyes. Cheers.
Cheers.
We're having a glass of Pinot Grigio today, and we're cheersing to you who are watching and those of you who are listening. Yummy. But today, you guys, we have a brand new topic, and let's get right into it. Oh, before we do, if you're tuning in for the very first time, you're listening to Cozy Convos, a place where we talk cozily and candidly all things marriage, wifehood, husbandhood,
parenthood,
and the worst hood and the most ghetto hood of them all, adulthood.
Amen. Amen.
It is ghetto out here, you guys. 0 out of 10. I do not recommend kids. Stay kids if you're listening, which you shouldn't be, but I digress.
Amen.
It is a rough out here in these adult streets. But today, you guys, I'm kind of excited to talk about this topic because I don't really see a lot of content surrounding this.
Mm-hmm.
And today, you guys, we're talking all about the silent
killers
in marriage.
Yep. The stuff we don't talk about.
Killers of a marriage. See, the death of a marriage is divorce.
Mm-hmm.
But most divorces don't die from natural causes.
There's always something that
it's those silent killers. It's
mm-hmm.
those dang on silent killers. It's those little things that no one talks about. It's those little things that don't get addressed, that get swept under the rug, that adds up, that builds up pressure in the mind and in the heart, that builds up resentment
and tension, and it starts to build up a wall that if you don't start knocking the wall down before it gets too high, neither one of you can get over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So today we're talking about some of those silent killers, you guys, and not only that, what you can do to combat them. Because here's the thing about silent killers, at least in my opinion, is that they are the easier problems that can be resolved. Let's put our phone on silent mode.
Mine stays on silent. Thank you.
Yes, we know this, or I know this all too well because you can never find it. I think you got some statistics for us, right?
Yeah. So when you brought this topic up, I immediately tried to find my bullet points that I wanted to talk on, but I came across these statistics, and it was kind of crazy to think that almost 50% of all marriages in the U.S. end in divorce or separation.
Wow.
50%. Young, old, black, white, green, purple, yellow. 50%. And then also 7 researchers estimate that 41% of all first marriages end in divorce.
Wow.
But my question is why?
Why? It's the silent killer.
Why do y'all think that rate is so high? Is it they're marrying too young?
Let's get into it,
or
right?
Are they but we think
Let's get into it. It's the silent killer.
It's the silent killer.
So I think we all have like a general idea of what the loud killers of marriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things like
infidelity,
major Major
any infidelity, but major infidelity.
Abuse, physical abuse,
Sexual abuse,
Ooh.
verbal abuse,
Ooh.
whatever the case may be.
Those are all like the loud killers of marriage. But we're going to get into the silent one.
Killers.
Yeah. So here's one that you've heard us talk about the importance of. You've heard us talk about how it plays a huge role in our relationship. But to me, the number one silent killer of marriage, or any relationship for that matter, is lack of communication.
Hey, man.
Lack of, at the end of the day, it all falls back
to communication,
to a gap of that.
Are you being open with your partner? Or are you being open with your partner? And nobody's perfect, but the thing is, you have to address it to make it better. And it could be anything. It could be with your job. It could be whatever the case may be that could cause tension. But you got to have that communication.
Got to. It's so, so important. What's one that you have? And we'll keep referring back. Lack of communication
is
and
like
communication
the big umbrella.
Is like the where all be all, but we're going to circle back to that.
The first one I came up with was avoiding conflict. I get it. You don't want to be physical, but turning the cheek sometimes probably isn't always the right answer. And when I say avoiding conflict, I mean, it may be a tough conversation to have with your significant other, but if it needs to be said, it needs to be said.
If I look at our relationship, I think that was the biggest thing or one of the biggest things that you had to overcome. And I was like, you had trouble telling me when something was bothering you.
Yeah. And I'm not just...
And we communicate every day.
We do.
Often. But when it came down to the little things that I do that bother you, or things that I do that you didn't agree with, you would be like...
And then walk off.
And I was like, and I would be like, what?
Yeah. That's
what?
Not fixing nothing.
But what happens over time doing that? Biting your tongue.
Mm-hmm. It builds up, it builds up, it builds up. And then it's like a volcano. You let something so small and so easy to fix build up over time. And then when you let it build up and you hit a breaking point, then you're into a bigger issue. When all along, all you had to do was just say, hey, XYZ, let's talk it out, work it out, and come up with a solution.
There goes that communication again.
Back to the communication.
So, yeah, you really do a better job at that these days.
Well, I've grown. I was 17, 18 then, and now I'm knocking on the 40. So
Thomas, stop saying you're knocking on 40. Oh my
I got
goodness.
4 years.
You have 5 years, Tom.
Baby, I turned 36 in a few months. You have 5 years.
Oh, thank you.
I have 4.5.
Okay. Well, I'm not knocking on 40. I'm sorry. I'm not going to accept that.
You're looking good, baby. You're looking good.
So avoiding conflict is like avoiding the elephant in the room. Like, there's an issue, but it's there. It's huge, but no one's talking about it.
And the crazy thing is, I've read several times that most men have that issue. I don't know if
have
it's
you
because
dived deeper in that?
Me personally, I think it's because we keep our pride to ourselves, and we don't want to come off vulnerable, so we let stuff bottle up and we shut it. And but yeah,
I'm drinking at a faster rate than you, and I don't like that. I want to get
I'm
you
getting
tipsy.
I'm getting into the conversation.
Can
My
we
bad, y'all.
please get tipsy because I want to take advantage of you.
Amen.
And I can only do that when your mind is altered. JK. Maybe.
No,
maybe
she's not. She's so serious.
Okay, let's see. Moving right along. So we have lack of communication. We have avoiding conflict. Okay, that's a silent killer. Huge. Let's talk about the unspoken expectations.
Amen.
Unspoken expectation, it still leads back. Unspoken means there's a lack or breakdown of communication, but that is a huge thing. When I read a lot of on marriage articles and kind of like what not to do, because I'm in this for the long haul. I don't know about you. Amen, somebody.
I'm here for the long haul.
You better be.
The long haul.
Anywho, while he's caressing get my hand back.
Alcohol's kind of setting in.
Yeah, those unspoken expectations. For example, if you as a man expect for your wife to stay at home and take care of the house and raise the kids and have supper ready for you when you get home, and you don't expect anything else out of her, but you haven't let her know about that beforehand, that's a problem.
Yeah. And this is probably a different conversation, but that really bothers me.
What?
Like,
I'm going to go get us something to have a shot because this wine is just not doing it for me.
You need a shot? Shot. My thing is, and I know you're gonna be so upset with me.
What's that?
Just get shot glass. They're right there. I know you're gonna be so upset with me. Like when we're out, and I don't know why I feel this way, but we're out. We go to a friend's get together. Babe, you want me to make your plate? And I always tell you, I'm good, babe. You enjoy yourself. You have fun. And then you get irritated with me like, no, this is my job. And it drives me crazy because I don't want to come off like, make my damn plate,
But and that's a whole nother topic that I actually have in my book.
That's
what
I know it's a whole other comment, but
that goes into gender roles, right?
Yeah. What I'm getting at is when you say the expectation of things, I just don't like that. I don't like that. You're at home, I'm working, and I expect you to cook my meal.
Well, that was just one example, right? Whether you know it or not, whether you want to voice it or not, you have expectations of me. And I have expectations of you. Yeah. I
guess the delivery is what I'm getting at.
You don't like the wording?
I don't.
Are you getting hooked up on wording?
I don't know. I think it's the alcohol, but me personally, gender roles, I get it. This is a different conversation, but I don't know. I'm gonna shut up.
We're gonna definitely dive into gender roles on the very next episode. Believe me.
So
that's a whole nother 30-minute segment.
But yeah, proceed.
But yeah, you have expectations of me. I have expectations of you, but we're doing a share shot glass because I didn't bring another one.
Shot. I just heard it on the radio the other day. Shout out
but
to Sean.
Yeah, you have expectations. Yeah, I already took mine. You have expectations of me. I have expectations of you, but we've talked about it,
right?
And some of the expectations are just kind of goes without saying. Like, you expect me to be faithful.
Okay.
I expect you to be faithful. Mm-hmm. As a man, I expect you to provide.
Mm-hmm.
I expect you to protect us.
Mm-hmm. I agree with those.
You expect me to be nurturing in the rearing of our children. And you have grown to expect a hot meal, a delicious meal. You have grown to expect that because that's what I have presented from day one.
See, I look at it though. Can my wife cook? Yes. Do I love it when my wife cooks? Yes. But if you didn't cook all week and you just say, let's catch a burger and fries, I'm not going to argue with that.
Okay, so if for a week, if I didn't cook, you're not going to argue with that. What about 2 weeks? Us eating out 2 weeks.
I mean, eventually I would.
3 weeks.
I get your point.
There's an expectation there.
I get your point.
There's an expectation. Yeah, okay. So what I'm saying is, at the point where we're 2 weeks in and it's McDonald's and Burger King every other day.
Week 2, I'm gonna need some of Gabby's home cooking.
Right, and you're gonna be like, so what are you gonna do? You need to speak.
Yeah, maybe which one cooked,
or maybe find out why. Hey, is everything all right? I noticed you haven't been cooking a lot lately. Are you okay? But you have to communicate that.
Right.
That's all. So us back at unspoken expectations is number 3. Like, whatever you expect from your spouse, communicate them. The major things should be communicated prior to getting married. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
Like, what religion you want to raise your children. When we got married, or while we were dating, Tom was born and raised Catholic. I was born and raised Baptist. Before we got married, we talked about, hey, if we're going to have kids, he wanted kids. I was still on the fence. If we're going to have kids, if you can convince me to have kids, and it didn't take much, baby, because he does this little motion in the ocean. Excuse me.
PG.
If
baby.
we're going to have kids, how are we going to raise them? In what religious belief? Mm-hmm. In what denomination? And he was like, I have no problem with them being raised Baptist. I said, are you sure? Do you want to expose them to both? I'm open to that. Those type of things, major things, should be spoken pre-proposal. But as the relationship progresses, there are going to be changes. There are going to be new things that happens where new expectations will be formed. And when they form, you guys, my ladies and my gentlemen, just communicate them with your partner. That's all.
It's easy as ABC 1, 2, 3.
ABC is the way. Okay, go ahead.
So the next one I have.
I'm listening. And this got me feeling all warm and chatty.
Oh Lord, now I'm getting her tipsy. Is invalidating feelings. And I guess it can kind of tail into what you were just saying about the expectations, because I feel like with that you're gonna have the question why. Okay, you want to raise the kids Baptist. Say I wanted to raise them Catholic. The tail end is, why do you want to raise them Baptist? Instead of just, and not taking the time out to listen to you. Instead of, we gonna do what I say, and that's just putting a heavy line in the sand of not validating somebody else's feelings.
See, when I think of invalidating feelings, I think of it as like, let's say I come to you and say, hey, babe, yesterday when we were talking about so-and-so and so-and-so, and you said so-and-so and so-and-so, that hurt my feelings. And you come back and say, no, it didn't.
That is a good.
You're invalidating my feelings. I know what I felt, but you're telling me I didn't. But I get what you're saying as well.
I kind of like your analogy a little bit better.
Yeah.
But
So
I 100% get that. You can't tell somebody how not to take something. You can come back and say, I apologize. I did not mean it that way. I was just trying to say this.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you need to be open and say, I apologize for you coming off the wrong way.
Right.
But don't, hack somebody's head off and say, no, that's not how you should feel. No.
And that kind of that's what gaslighting is all about, right?
And I could be wrong, but it also comes off very narcissistic too.
Come on, very what? That word tears him up every time. Narcissist.
There you go. What did I say? Narcissistic.
It tears him up every time. Mm-mm. And here I am thinking I'm the one with the speech impairment.
Well, I got 2 words out the entire vocabulary. You have a whole plethora of them, so it's all good.
No, baby. No. But yeah, invalidating feelings is just it's just rejecting how someone feels, dismissing someone's feelings. It's that it sends a message that I don't care how you feel. Basically,
say you don't care. My way or the highway.
Basically,
which is just
what you're saying ain't nothing. It's insignificant.
And
it's irrelevant.
I guess it's just my personality, personally, but I just mentally can't have that kind of mindset. Like, if what you feel, I just people.
You'll
like
be
that,
surprised. You would be surprised. You would be surprised. A lot of people have that type of personality where, hey, it's my way or the highway, or it's how I feel, and
you'll be the first to acknowledge. I apologize, probably way too much.
To a fault. I'm sorry, baby, but I'm like, what are you apologizing for? And that may be a whole nother episode. We got to dig into what the causes of that is, because everything else.
Honestly, I don't know. I always feel like I say something wrong and maybe I offended somebody or whatever. So I just want to make sure
we're cool. I just want to make sure we're cool. That's his favorite little saying. We good. I just want to make sure. And I love that about you. I really, really, really do. Sincerely.
I shouldn't do it.
But I think there's maybe a mental health issue going on. It's like a reason. Like, that has to be a coping mechanism for something else.
I'm going to research it tonight.
Let's do that. Yeah. Let's do that tomorrow, because I have plans for you.
Do I need to take placebos for that?
You're stupid.
Yeah.
My next thing, if I could make, because we're just going to try to keep this relatively short.
Hey, man.
For the purpose of editing. But yeah, my next thing would be, and I think this is a major one, actually. And this is I feel like it's major. One silent killer of marriages is unresolved personal traumas. I'm going to let that marinate just a little bit. Just let it marinate. I said I'm going to let that marinate just a little bit. Unresolved personal trauma. We all bring, as adults, some type of baggage into our relationships.
Yeah. That's just
they have a way of showing their ugly head. But it's up to us individually to address them and to start the process of resolving them. Yeah. And most of the personal trauma that we as adults have occur in our childhood. Like, we get stuck. A part of us gets stuck at whatever age it was or whatever time period it was that we experienced trauma, in our childhood, and we bring those little nuggets into our relationships and our marriages, and it shows up as insecurities. And those traumas we have to protect, right? So we build a wall up around them that you guard, and not even your spouse
knows about it. Yeah.
And can break it down until you personally work on resolving them.
Yeah. Okay. So give a few examples.
A few examples outside of myself, just in general. Let's say if you were molested as a child.
Okay.
You get married, you grow. A part of you is still the age that you were when you were molested.
Mm-hmm.
And you bring that little girl or that little boy into your marriage. It's going to, at some point, show up negatively in that relationship. Seriously, it's going to somewhat show up. If you haven't worked through counseling or through some other methods to
fix it,
to work through them.
Okay.
You may have an unhealthy relationship with sex. You may not like being touched a certain way because it triggers a memory. You know? If I can just get completely honest and candid, one of the traumas I think I brought into our relationship is, growing up, my parents were married. Both of my parents are deceased, but my parents were married before they died. They died within 6 months of each other. They were married, and they had been married, I think, 32 years at that point. But in those 32 years of marriage, there was so much toxicity. I don't even know if I said it right. It was such a toxic relationship, right? There was so much that I witnessed that I kind of brought into our marriage, because really our parents are our only examples outside of TV of what we should do as adults.
Yeah.
They're our first examples. How to be a woman, how to be a man. If they're married, what that looks like. If they're single, how they treat a woman, how they treat a man. We get that from
the examples of parenthood.
From our parents or guardians. So the examples I saw with domestic abuse, with verbal abuse, taught me that, okay, when we have a disagreement, we have to raise our voices. We have to use profanity.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you have to hit me, because
that's what you saw.
That's what I saw. At some point, you were in my head at that time, that trauma.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you were going to put your hands on me, because that's just what happens. Right? And as a result, I acted a certain way.
You were putting your defense up, ready for that to happen.
Exactly. That was trauma.
You were getting
at the
yourself
time I did it.
prepared
Exactly.
for what you.
This guy to me was too good to be true. At some point, you were going to show me your true self, because my dad had a very much so Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. 1 minute, he was the life of the party, super duper happy, super duper fun. And then like that, he was a very evil man. Very mean. And I felt that all men was like that. But it took me years to realize that's not.
Honestly.
And that I didn't have to be that way with you. I didn't have to have that guard, because you weren't him.
When you say years, I'd probably have to say 6 years.
I would have.
You had your guard up.
I would probably agree. Yeah.
Maybe a little less.
And the moment that I decided, or I knew that I could trust him completely, and I didn't have to have my guard, I told you. Do you remember that?
I do.
I said, hey, can I tell you something? We've been together now. That's our kid in the background. I'm sorry. We've been together now for, I forget how many years it was at that point. But if you want to know, this is why I was acting this way. But right now, in this moment, I feel like I can trust you wholeheartedly. And I hope that you don't prove me wrong. And you told me I don't have anything to worry about.
You do? I'm never going to put my hands on
Do you remember this conversation?
I do.
Yeah. So I hate to go off in a tangent about my personal situation. But yeah, so that's one example.
Yeah.
But the key is to resolve them, to work on it. I've spent so many nights in prayer, in my journal. One thing about God is, I had to bring God in this.
Amen.
Your heart desires, when you pray about him, if you're struggling with something, if you pray specifically on that thing, I promise you, God can deliver you from it. He can take those things away through prayer. If you have an addiction to pornography, God, please just take the lust I have to go to these sites away. If you struggle with drinking, Lord, please take the taste of alcohol out of my mouth to where it's no longer pleasurable, to it's no longer on my mind, to where when I drink it, I'm disgusted.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like if you can acknowledge the disgust part after the fact, like drinking or whatever the case, you're halfway there.
Exactly.
The first step is to acknowledge the problem. And if you can acknowledge that I shouldn't be doing this, or maybe I need to lower my consumption, or whatever the case may be, you're halfway there. You just have to overcome the other half. And the only way to do that is, I'm not trying to be religious, but like you said, ask for forgiveness.
But you're a religious man. You're a man of God. Don't ever deflect from that.
I'm not. I'm trying to speak to everybody, though.
Okay.
People who may not be. But even if you're not religious, talk to somebody. And don't be too prideful. Don't be too embarrassed, because you're seeking help. Mental health is real.
Yes.
And when I say mental health, I'm not just talking about crazy people. I'm talking about anything. Stress, worry, anxiety. Mental health is important.
Yes.
And then this is going to loop back down to number 1. Lack of communication.
I was going to say that, like, the same way you should be speaking to your spouse, addressing your concerns, your wants, your needs regularly, frequently, you should have those same conversations with God. Your heart's desire, all of that. That should be the start of it.
Again, if you're not religious, have the conversation with yourself. Acknowledge the problem. If you're single, just out of divorce, observe what could have been the issue.
Right.
So that in your next marriage or your next relationship, you don't make those same mistakes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would say, to conclude,
I'm seeing 3 of you right now. I'm just playing.
I would say to conclude, you guys, is that if you really want to start working on the things that may be showing up in your marriage or your relationship that could be silently killing it slowly, is to start communicating. And if you already communicate more.
Amen.
Seriously. Amen. Whatever it is, if it's a problem, if it's a concern, how you feel, those things matter. And just tell your spouse, hey, I'm feeling such and such. This matters to me. If y'all can't come in a mutual ground, go have a median. Go to therapy. But all therapy is communication. That person is set up in the middle to help mediate communication between the two.
Yep.
So if you can't do it together, bring someone in professionally who can help get that started for you. We want to see every marriage be successful. Like, marriage is lit and it shouldn't be hard, but you have to be,
you got me getting all emotional.
You have to be intentional and you have to do the work.
Be forgiving, be acceptive, but be open.
You know, when you talk this talk, Mr. King, you're just so extremely sexy to me.
Let's go and wrap this up. Let me stop.
You really are. I kid you not. I
love you.
Not. I love you so much. And I thank you for doing this with me.
Of course. I love talking to the people.
You guys, a few of you have messaged us on Instagram and like, when are you going to do another Cozy Convo? I really didn't think many people like really cared. But as long as we have a few people listening.
Hey.
And valuing what we're saying or getting something out of what we're saying, we're going to keep going. We're going to come back with another episode much sooner than what we did with this one. Okay, you guys? So with that being said, we hope that you were able to obtain something from today's episode. We want to just kill the silent killers. We want y'all to put on y'all bulletproof vest in your marriage. I want you to pull out your whatever weaponry you have, and I want you to start combating those silent killers in your marriage so that one day you will look back and say, ha, got him, because you're not killing us, baby. We're rocking this thing till the wheels fall off.
Amen.
Yeah, amen. So yeah, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Gabby_and_Tom. You can find us on YouTube at Gabbing. That's GABBIN apostrophe. Or what is that? Is it apostrophe? Gabbing with Gabbing. What's so funny?
You're leaving me hanging.
I'm sorry, baby. Gabbing with Gabby and Tom. You can find us on TikTok at Gabby_and_Tom. Follow us, you guys.
Yes.
I think we're pretty interesting, funny, goofy, kind of goofy.
Definitely goofy.
We know we could be a little too much at time, and that's okay.
That's okay. What makes us us.
I love you, baby.
I love you more.
Thank you so much again, you guys. Until the next episode.
Bye.